Hello, me again. So, enlightenment, God realization, what now? Before I get into that, the last video I put out, I ended it kind of with sleeping habits with this new found Sahaja experience. And I've come to find out you sleep-ish. For some reason, you don't need as much sleep. I feel like because of the state your body's in most of the time, you just don't need as much rest as you typically would. But when you do sleep, it is a little bit different. Your dreams are very, very, very real and vivid. And even while you're sleeping, it's almost as if you're conscious the whole time, which sounds like it might not be a restful sleep. Contradictory, you have no problems. Right now I'm getting by on about 5 to 6 hours, and that's it. My body's up, and I can't even force myself to sleep any more than that. So that's what we found out about sleeping. So now on this path that I've been on for a hot minute, and getting to this point, I've been getting a lot of questions about things. Obviously people are curious as to what this is all about and what it means. And my last video was a little bit ecstatic, being that all of this had just happened and the energy was really, really intense and flying right through me. And so now I'm a little bit calmer. Plus I did a little hike, so I'm a little bit worn out. I'm here in beautiful Sedona. I don't know if you can see this, but I just hiked up the hill from my house. I actually live right by Airport Mesa. If anybody knows what Sedona is, I'm right at the bottom of the hill. And so hiked up here. So things are a little calmer for me today. People are asking a lot of questions about things, and all across the board. So this will be kind of a little bit of a rough or generalized type of information that I'm going to give you. Nothing too in-depth. That can come with any questions that you might have. You can send them through. I'm really cool about answering questions and communicating anything that you could possibly inquire about. The one thing that kind of pops up is everybody wants to know, obviously how you do this. The how is probably different for everyone, but there are definitely things that to get to this point are musts. And so I'll keep this part of it short. The goal is to open up your chakras for energy, communication, everything to be flowing through you. So there's nothing inhibiting any information that you could get from your higher self. That in turn kind of releases your ego so that you have the ability to have information come through, from your higher self, which is the whole point of this. The whole point of spiritual enlightenment is to get to the point where you don't need to meditate anymore. You don't have to worry about your ego. You can be here and live very, very freely. And I think a lot of people were concerned or confused as to, what happens when you get to this point. There's a lot of things that you can probably find online about it. The one thing is people asking about karma. So when you get to this level, the Sahaja, your karma's washed, basically. So you don't have to worry about things repeating in your life that you don't want. Basically means you've learned all the lessons you've come here to learn. You've put the work in with devotion so that source could come through, so that you no longer need to kind of live that way. We were all born awake. That goes to sleep around 4 because of church, because of the government, everything shuts that down. So the whole point is to get to a point where you're awake again, so that you realize basically the bullshit you're living in right now. As far as having a freer life, life's still pretty normal. You're still going to do your daily activities. You have to eat, you got to go to work. Nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to sit around like Yogananda or something like that and or some sort of, highly enlightened individual that we see sitting in a robe, with the legs crossed and all that, not really doing much. If you want and you have the ability to live that life, go right ahead. But that's not what happens to you. Those people are being paid by rich people to be able to do nothing, to have these people around. I'm not choosing that path. That's not for me. So you can choose the life you want moving forward. Manifestations happen very, very quickly and in a very, very real way. For me, I'm just going to continue to kind of live in service for people, help people with awakenings. This is the whole point of why I went through this and what I truly want to do. It doesn't mean that this is a calling, like this is something I'm told to do. This is something I want to do. Me saying that right now means this is something that my higher self wants to do through me as well. And so that would indicate that I've chosen this, as we all choose our karma before we get here. I've chosen this part of it. When I get to the awakening, I really want to stay. That being said, when you do get to this level of sahaja, you can go a little bit further, and it's called Mahasamadhi. Mahasamadhi is the highest level you could possibly go in this body, and when you reach that, you can ultimately close your eyes and be absorbed back into source consciousness. It's very interesting. I just heard a channel from Saint Germain, and he was talking about the people that are awakening now and this mass awakening that's happening, and he was encouraging people to stay, don't leave. It was pretty funny to hear it out loud, from Saint Germain. You have the option to come back home, but please stay. This is what you chose. And I think all of us that have gone down this path, we're pretty exhausted at this point, and we are thinking about just going home. But to be quite honest, this is my last go around in third density to be incarnate in this type of form, and I want to enjoy as much of it as I can and see basically how far the rabbit hole goes. When you get to this point, you gain an understanding. You gain an understanding of what's happening, what's going on, where you came from, and what to do. There's nobody in my head telling me to do these things. There's nobody in my head telling me what's going on. This is just me, my free will, my choices. I think I'm making the right choice for myself. I want to kind of stick around. As far as information goes, when you do get to this point, you're not just being downloaded with a ton of information. I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen. I received many downloads, some pretty intense ones, and those do happen spontaneously. But the majority of the information that you can get is you can get the information. All you have to do is communicate with your higher self on that. And I think everybody's probably different in that regard. Some people can go back into meditation and have communications with actual entities that are working on the right side, let's put it that way. Some people may get visited. I don't know. For me personally, if I have questions, I ask the questions. I ask them in my head, I ask them out loud, and I immediately get responses in the way that I do. Everybody receives responses, information in different ways. I'm not going to get into details on mine. We could get into that at a later point. If people want to ask questions, they can. But you will get information, and it's immediate. It's to the second, even shorter than a second. Everything's right there and accessible. So this is where we're at, this is where we're going, and this is what's next, right? You kind of get to choose what you want to do. But again, chop wood, carry water, if you plan on being here, or unless you have a lot of money, basically, to do nothing or do whatever you want. Another thing people ask about on getting here, what all that entails. You're going to hear a lot of things from a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. The whole goal of meditation and yoga is to reach this point. Many people don't know that. But you don't have to. You can use that as a way to just relax in your day. You can use that as a means to get to a certain point of enlightenment and stop and live your life. That also being said, to get to this level and to continue to keep moving, what you have to do is open up the chakras. So we all come in with our root chakra, our sacral, and our solar plexus open. So the goal, first off, is to get the heart open, because that's the love center. That's that connection that really carries the most energy. We'll put it that way. Now, once you do that, again, we can get into subtopics here, and we're gonna save that for later times. But once you get your heart open, then you want to get your throat open, then you want to get your third eye open, then you want to get your crown open. And there's a bunch of other chakras going on that you can play with after that. But the main goal is to make sure you get the heart open. And if you want to keep going, your throat, your third eye, and then your crown chakra. That being said, what will happen on this route is your Kundalini will open at some point. That energy at the base of your spine is brought on by your will and desire and devotion for what you're trying to do, along with your meditative practices and all that stuff. So I had been working to get to my Kundalini to open up, because that is the gateway that forces energy through everything, and it will pop everything open in time. When that does happen, let's start with this. You could go and pay somebody to have that happen for you. I don't know that that's a problem. I would recommend doing some work before you do that. First off, it's expensive, because nobody does anything for free these days, even in this line of work. And two, you just shouldn't be opening it up if you haven't done shadow work. If you don't know what shadow work is, you can ask me, and that can be a whole nother subset. Basically, that is clearing all of the stuff out of you, all your blockages, the things that you hold on to, that kitten you kicked when you were 10, that you still think about every once in a while. You have to purge all of that, and that's your shadow work. There's ways to do that. Now, say you do that, and then your Kundalini can open spontaneously. That's what happened to me, because I was doing all of the work. I put all of the work in. You're going to hear me say that a lot, because it is. I put all the work in to get to that point, and then it opened. It took quite a while to get to that point. When the Kundalini opened, then everything started opening one by one. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I went from heart 4 weeks later to throat, that I did have some problems with. You may encounter this. You just work through it and you figure it out. Third eye and crown. Those were all about 2 weeks apart. So the heart 4 weeks, and then 2 weeks after were everything else. Another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks. And when that happens, you'll know it. You're gonna know it. Because when your heart opens, it feels like your heart's jumping out of your chest, and it's just pouring energy into the universe. It's unmistakable, it's magical. So if you think, oh, maybe it happened, oh, I feel happy today, oh, I felt lighthearted, oh, no, you're gonna know. You're gonna know. It's bells and whistles. Bucket of ice water in the face. You can't ignore that, and you know what happened. That's what happens when everything starts to open. So you'll feel that in your heart. The same thing will happen to your throat. Same thing will happen to your third eye. When your crown pops, it's a very cool experience. I don't know what happens to everybody else, but I went through the Krios, which we'll talk about in a minute. Krios came in and had me open in a lotus with my fingers in my body, and it was the coolest thing on the planet. So those are the things that need to happen in order to get to this point. Now we're going to pause and talk about Krios for a second. Not to be confused with Kriya Yoga. This is Krios, K-R-I-Y-A-S. You can look up videos online, it'll tell you all about it. They're basically involuntary movements that happen in your body. Those are there to further release all of the blockages in your body, which are everywhere. We don't store everything right here. We store it in our bodies. Water is memory. Our body, 80%, 85% water. This is where we hold everything, all of the memories. Now, when your shoulders are tight and, oh, I must be stressed out, There's a reason. It's because that's where you're holding all your stress. This is where it hides. In these muscles you don't even know that you have. There's these things called nadis. There's like 40,000 of them, I think, in your body, and they're holding all this shit. So the Kriyas comes in and does these movements, and it gets gnarly. It gets gnarly. You can be on the floor, rolling around, writhing, and your body's pop, 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 pop. That is all of that stuff coming out. You'll get memories and thoughts through that shit you did not remember, things you forgot you knew. And you're gonna have all those emotions and thoughts come, but that's good. They're getting out of there. They're popping and getting out of your body. That's the whole point of Kriyas. Now, that being said, it can get pretty painful. And I can imagine a lot of people, if they go through this spontaneous Kundalini thing and they're not really expecting it, all of a sudden their body's moving, it's popping, and they're coming, all this emotion's happening. And it's painful. It can be. You can control it. It's not gonna come in and say, you know, rip your arm off, make your head explode. You can let it get to that point, but you can control the intensity. But you're still gonna feel some discomfort. But it's actually a good discomfort, and I know that sounds weird to say, but it gets to a point to where it's enjoyable. But sometimes, and we'll say recently, when it gets to where the stuff that's really, really, really stuck, your body needs to go into some poses that can be difficult. I went through this very, very fast, and I still experience Kriyas. But you can take 20 years to do this if you want. Nice and soft. Nice and easy. Me, it's only been a few years, and I'm like where I'm at now. And so I put myself through the ringer. I think I said it before, 2 to 8 hours a day meditation. When Kundalini happens, it was Kriyas for 2 to 4 hours. So I got rid of everything in my life, and everything in my life disappeared that didn't need to be there, that would get in the way of this process for me, because my intention was to get this done fast. So anybody who didn't believe in this just disappeared. People that didn't need to be there, I actually got rid of. And you'll know who they are. You will know. Because when you're going through this and you realize how real it is, you don't want people talking in your ear about anything, because they don't know anything. Only you know what's going on with you. To the point where you may feel every once in a while like, hey man, is this real? What's happening? That's your ego. It's gonna happen. Ego's there for a reason. It's supposed to protect you. It's doing its job. When that happens, thank it. Send your ego some love at that point. Transmute that thought. It'll go away. It'll go away. And transmutation, very, very important. Huge part of shadow work. So that's something that we'll definitely be talking about at some point. So now that this is here now, meditation, really not necessary, because it's happening all day, all the time. You're in that state, you're in that mode. I'm in it right now, and you just don't need to meditate. That's the point of meditating, is to get to a point to where you don't have to. I still do. I enjoy it. Now I'll sit down and my meditations are interesting, because as soon as I close my eyes for the intent of meditation, I am immediately catapulted into, I should say this, I'm completely unplugged from this scenario, and my real self is available, which means it's all love, it's all energy, it's revitalizing, you're getting DNA upgrades constantly still. All of this stuff's happening, and it feels great. So I still like to meditate. I like to sit down, and I'm used to it because I've been doing it for so long. It's a part of who I am and what I want, which everybody's different. Everybody's gonna do whatever they want. So the part of realization and enlightenment, if you want to call it that, there's different words for all this. You understand. You're realizing who you are. You realize where you came from. You realize this ain't your first go around. And a lot of people realize that they have had these lives before and they begin to remember them. That's happened to me. I've seen some of my past. I don't want to see a lot of it because the stuff that I did see was just not good stuff. I had been a spiritual person in my past, and way back, let's say, you know, when people were living in castles or living in huts, people weren't so cool or open about stuff, and they would kill you openly, freely, and in very, very terrible ways. So for me, that's nothing I strive for, but it is something that can happen and probably does for most people. Here and there. You'll see some stuff and you'll realize, oh, that's me. It's not a dream about somebody else's life. That's you. That'll happen in your dreams as well. You begin to realize that your true self is the bigger picture. All those lives are accumulated to create your higher self. I'm here right now. Every microsecond, there's information going to my higher self, which is creating my higher self, which is me. Information for my higher self, then for the oversoul, for God, so that all these experiences can be realized. All this memory is kept in the Akashic record, it's called, and you can go there at this point if you want to. If I have questions about things in my life or the past, you can go in and you can ask. You can see things you don't remember. All the information's there, and it's not hard to do it all. You literally just kind of close your eyes and ask, and you can realize some things. So this has just been kind of a brief little summary of enlightenment, God realization. That was a real quick answer on how to get there, my version of it, at my speed, for my reasons, and the goal, you know, for me, to help other people get to where I'm at, the same experience. This is what the big awakening is all about. 2/3 of all of you are going to get here at some point. Real fast, actually. Things are moving very fast. So it's really exciting. I'm very excited to be this person. I love my job. I am an organic chef. I work at a retreat and basically make the tastiest, but we'll say the healthiest possible food I can for cancer patients that decide not to go through the normal channels. And it's just an amazing feeling to be able to go to work and do that every day and doing what I do as a chef. So I'm very blessed that way. I do have other things coming, and that's kind of kit and kin to that a little bit, but more on the education side. So things are continually moving forward and going. So I hope this gave you a little bit of information, a little bit of knowledge that you can use and apply, and welcoming all questions, because I definitely would like to come back and explain anything else more in depth in any of those areas or any other questions that you have. I'd actually love to do it. Absolutely love it. And I love all of you. Thanks.